Listen, let me talk to you real quick, because somewhere along the journey, you forgot who you were. You forgot what you carry. You forgot that your spirit was built from pressure, your mind from survival, and your heart from lessons you never deserved but still overcame. And the crazy part, you gave access to people who didn't earn it. You let emotions pull you in directions that weren't meant for you. You handed out power like it was nothing to people who would never hand back the same energy. But today you learn how to detach and take back everything that was yours from the start. Listen, let me put something on your heart real quick, something most people don't realize until they've already lost pieces of themselves along the way. Your emotions, that's your currency, that's your wealth, that's your value in motion. But somewhere through the journey, you started handing that currency out like it was nothing. Like people could just walk in and withdraw from your spirit without ever depositing anything back. And that's why you feel drained, empty, confused, pulled in directions you never meant to go. Because you forgot that your emotions are not free. They cost energy, they cost strength, they cost time, they cost your peace. The wild part is people know when you're emotional. They see it, they feel it, and the wrong ones, they treat it like opportunity. They play on it, they use it, they move in ways that benefit them and leave you trying to make sense of someone who never planned to understand you in the first place. You ever notice how some people show up only when they know they can get a reaction out of you? How they push your buttons like they rehearsed it. That's because they learned your value. Not the value you show on the outside, the internal one, the emotional one, the one that gives, feels, hopes, and believes. But here's the truth. Once somebody realizes they can tap in to your emotions whenever they want, they don't respect you, they manage you. You stop being a person and start becoming a source of validation, attention, support, or comfort they dip into when it benefits them. And when you're empty, they don't refill you. They just move to the next person who's willing to give for free. That's why you gotta protect your emotional currency like you protect your time, like you protect your future, like you protect your dreams. Because emotions move you. Emotions shape your decisions. Emotions shift your path. And if you let the wrong people influence how you feel, you'll start living a life you never asked for. You got to ask yourself, why am I spending energy on people who wouldn't even loan me honesty? Why am I investing feelings into people who can't offer consistency? Why am I putting my heart into hands that don't even carry their own carefully? That's emotional bankruptcy. That's how you lose yourself. That's how you wake up and realize you've been paying for someone else's comfort with your own peace. When you take your emotions back, when you decide nobody gets to trigger you, nobody gets to drain you, nobody gets to pull you into their storms, that's when everything changes. You start moving with intention instead of reaction. You start choosing who gets access. You start realizing not everyone deserves a seat at your table, and even fewer deserve a seat at your heart. Emotional discipline is power. When you stop giving every situation a reaction, people lose the ability to pull you out of character. When you stop responding to every disrespect, people lose the illusion that they control you. When you stop explaining yourself to those who only want to misunderstand you, you reclaim your freedom. Your peace is not free. Your energy is not free. Your emotions are not free. They're earned. They're respected. They're valued by the right people. You got to start moving like your heart is premium, like your time is luxury, like your emotions sit on a high shelf not everyone can reach. Because the moment you do that, life starts shifting. You stop leaking energy into dead end connections. You stop trying to save people who enjoy drowning. You stop carrying people who refuse to walk. And you start pouring into yourself. You start growing again. You start healing again. You start shining again. because you finally understood your worth. Your emotions are your currency. And the minute you treat them like value instead of weakness, the world stops taking from you and starts respecting you. Listen, let me break something down in a way most people never heard it before. Detachment ain't coldness. It ain't distance. It ain't shutting your heart off or becoming some emotionless, unbothered statue. Nah, detachment is clarity. It's vision. It's that moment when you finally step out of the noise long enough to hear your own voice again. See, when you're attached to every feeling, every comment, every reaction, every shift in somebody's energy, you start living a life that ain't yours. You get pulled into storms that got nothing to do with you. You start fighting battles that don't belong to your spirit. You start handing out emotional reactions to people who don't even value the breath it takes for you to speak. But when you detach, when you pull back just enough to see everything from the outside, that's when things finally make sense. Detachment is when you stop being moved by every little thing that tries to get your attention. It's when you stop letting people drag you into their chaos. It's when you stop taking things personal because you can finally see the reality most people project. Most people vent their insecurities through their actions. Most people ain't fighting you. They fighting themselves, and you just happen to be standing close. And that's why clarity is power, because clarity lets you choose, not react, not panic, not break. Choose. When you've mastered detachment, you don't rush anymore. You don't chase anymore. You don't beg for explanations. You don't demand closure. You don't try to force people to behave a certain way. You watch, you observe, you understand. Then you make your move from a place of strength, not from emotion. Most people react because they're uncomfortable with silence. They need to respond fast. They need to prove something. They need to defend their ego. But detachment teaches you something different. Silence is strategy. Patience is power. Space is wisdom. You don't got to show up to every argument. You don't got to clap back at every insult. You don't got to fix every misunderstanding. You don't got to explain your worth to anyone who was blind to it from the start. That's clarity. That's you choosing your peace over your pride. Detachment ain't about caring less. It's about caring right. It's about putting your energy where it belongs instead of where it's wasted. It's about valuing your emotional health more than someone else's opinion of you. It's about realizing you don't need to react to prove you're alive. When you stop reacting, you start noticing things you overlooked before. You notice who only comes around when they need something. You notice who gets mad when you set boundaries. You notice who respects your time and who drains your spirit. You notice the patterns instead of the excuses. And once you start noticing, you start choosing wisely. You choose your battles. You choose your circle. You choose your peace. You choose your growth. Detachment sharpens your mind. It strengthens your character. It elevates your judgment. It protects your energy. It turns you from someone who's easily manipulated into someone who's impossible to shake. Because when you stop reacting, people lose their power over you. They can't trigger you. They can't control you. They can't bait you into disrespecting yourself. Clarity gives you control, not over them, over you. You start moving with intention. You start speaking with purpose. You start walking with confidence. You start vibing on a frequency where chaos can't reach you. That's the real transformation. When your peace becomes louder than anyone's attempts to disturb it, people will call you cold for protecting yourself. They'll call you distant for not letting them drain you. They'll call you changed because the old version of you would have tolerated their behavior. But you're not cold. You're aware. You're not distant. You're selective. You're not changed. You're finally choosing yourself. And choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. It's evolution. It's clarity. Detachment isn't shutting down your heart, it's opening your eyes. And once you see clearly, you never move the same again. Listen, let me lay something on your soul that most people don't learn until they've been broken, until they've been drained, until they've given so much of themselves that they don't even recognize the person staring back in the mirror. Distance reveals truth. The moment you step back, manipulation loses power. And that's a reality a lot of people don't want you to understand, because the second you learn it, they can't play you the way they used to. See, the reason manipulation works is because you're standing too close, you're too involved, you're too attached, you're too invested in what you feel, what you hope, what you want things to be, instead of what they actually are. When you're in the middle of it, everything looks bigger than it is. Every lie looks believable. Every excuse feels like maybe it's true. Every shift in someone's energy hits your heart like a warning shot. But when you step back, when you give yourself room to breathe, when you stop responding like everything deserves your immediate attention, that's when the smoke clears. Distance shows you who someone really is, not who you imagine them to be. Because when you stop making yourself available, you see their intentions. When you stop reacting, you see their motives. When you stop giving them access to your emotions, you see what they were really after the whole time. Manipulation only survives in confusion. It only works when your heart is louder than your mind. It only works when you're emotionally exhausted and mentally overwhelmed. It only works when you want the connection more than they respect it. But distance cuts through all of that. Distance brings truth to the surface. Distance gives you perspective you couldn't find when you were tangled in their words and their games. You ever notice how some people panic when you pull back? They start calling more. They start pretending they care more. They start acting like they finally get it. But it ain't because they changed. It's because their control is slipping. Their grip is loosening. Their usual tricks ain't working. And nothing scares a manipulator more than losing access to someone who actually has value. But the moment you step back, they can't twist your emotions. They can't twist your thoughts. They can't twist your reality, because distance disconnects the wires they used to pull. You see their patterns instead of their promises. You see their actions instead of their apologies. You see their character instead of their performances. And that truth, it may hurt at first. It may hit you in the chest. It may wake something in you that you try to ignore. But that truth is what sets you free. Distance makes you stronger because it reconnects you with yourself. You start hearing your intuition again, the one you silenced trying to see the best in the wrong people. You start feeling yourself worth again, the one that got buried every time you tolerated what you knew you didn't deserve. You start thinking clearly again, no emotional fog, no confusion, no mental clutter. And with that clarity comes power. You start making decisions from a place of strength. You start setting boundaries that don't shake. You start moving with confidence instead of doubt. You start seeing that you were never the one who needed to change. You just needed to step back enough to see the truth. Distance exposes loyalty. It exposes intentions. It exposes who was real and who was just comfortable. Most people ain't afraid of losing you. They're afraid of losing the benefits they get from you. And when you step back, those benefits disappear. And that's when their true colors show. So don't be scared to create space. Don't be scared to pull away. Don't be scared to let distance do the work your heart couldn't. Because real love, real respect, real intention, those things don't fade when you step back. They reveal themselves. The ones who were meant for you will come correct. The ones who weren't will fade on their own. Either way, you win. Because the moment you step back, manipulation stops winning and you start living. Listen, let me talk to you about a type of strength most people never develop. a type of discipline that separates the grounded from the impulsive, the wise from the reckless, the powerful from the easily controlled. Self-control. Not the kind you show when life is easy, but the kind that shows when someone disrespects you, when someone tests you, when someone tries to pull you out of character on purpose. Self-control is the highest form of strength because anybody can react. Anybody can get loud, get angry, get emotional, get reckless. But it takes a different kind of spirit to stay solid, to stay centered, to stay calm when disrespect is thrown at you like it's supposed to break you. Most people don't understand this. Disrespect is never about you. It's about them, their insecurities, their fears, their ego, their need for control. And when you react, you give them exactly what they wanted, your peace. That's why self-control is power, because it keeps you from being moved by situations that don't deserve your energy. It protects your mind from being hijacked by somebody else's problems. It keeps you from paying emotional tax on temporary nonsense. See, people study your reactions. They watch what gets you angry, what gets you emotional, what gets you frustrated, what gets you to step outside your own character. And once they know where your buttons are, it's easy for them to push them anytime they feel like it. But when you master self-control, those buttons disappear. Your peace becomes untouchable. Your mood becomes yours again. Your mind becomes something they can't access. The real flex isn't clapping back. The real flex isn't proving you're right. The real flex isn't matching someone's disrespect with your own heat. The real flex is looking at the disrespect and choosing not to entertain it. The real flex is walking away without losing your cool. The real flex is not allowing someone's behavior to pull you out of the greatness you've grown into. When you control yourself, you control the situation. When you control yourself, you control the outcome. When you control yourself, you take away the power they thought they had over you. People expect you to explode. They expect you to react. They expect you to fight back because that gives them a sense of equality, like they can drag you down to their level. But when you stay calm, when you stay focused, when you stay grounded, they get confused, they get frustrated, they get powerless because you can't manipulate someone who doesn't react. You can't disrespect someone who refuses to let your words define them. You can't control someone who has mastered themselves. Self-control is you telling the world, my peace is not for sale. My character is not negotiable. My reactions are not yours to control. The strongest people ain't the ones who win the fight. The strongest people are the ones who avoid the fight entirely because they understand the cost. They understand what it takes from them. They understand how much energy gets wasted when you let someone else start driving your emotions. Real strength is silent. Real strength is strategic. Real strength is knowing when to speak and when to walk away. Real strength is protecting your energy like it's sacred, because it is. The truth is this: disrespect only hurts when you let it stick. It only damages you when you absorb it. It only affects you when you let it. But when you're disciplined enough to see it, acknowledge it, and rise above it, you become untouchable. Self-control turns you into someone who can't be moved, can't be shaken, can't be dragged into chaos just because someone else is drowning in their own. So hold your composure. Guard your energy. Move with intention, not emotion. And remember, there's no louder statement than staying silent in the face of someone who wanted you to react. That's real strength. That's real growth. That's real growth. That's real power. Listen, let me tell you something that hits different once you've been drained, once you've been disappointed, once you've given people more of you than they ever deserved. Taking back your power don't start with revenge or with proving somebody wrong or with showing the world you don't need anybody. It starts inside. It starts the moment you decide your peace means more than anyone's approval. See, most people lose their power because They spend their life trying to be accepted, trying to be understood, trying to be liked, trying to be chosen by people who can't even choose themselves. You bend, you fold, you shrink, you sacrifice, all because you're afraid of being seen as too much, too distant, or too different. But that's how you hand your power away, piece by piece, reaction by reaction, choice by choice. Every time you silence yourself to keep someone comfortable, you give away a piece of your power. Every time you ignore your intuition to keep someone close, you give away a piece of your power. Every time you tolerate disrespect just to avoid conflict, you give away a piece of your power. Every time you chase approval instead of honoring your peace, you give away a piece of your power. And one day you wake up feeling empty, feeling worn out, feeling disconnected from who you are. And you don't know how it happened, but it happened because you were trying to please people who never planned to see your worth in the first place. The moment you say, "My peace matters," everything changes. You stop chasing, you stop begging, you stop explaining yourself, you stop needing validation from people who don't even validate themselves. Peace is priceless. Approval is temporary. When you value peace, you make decisions differently. You set boundaries without apologizing. You remove yourself from situations that drain you. You cut off conversations that steal your energy. You choose distance instead of disrespect. You choose silence instead of argument. You choose yourself instead of the version of you people try to shape for their own benefit. And here's the real truth. Some people only love you when you're useful. Some people only applaud you when you agree with them. Some people only stay when you're easy to control. But when you choose peace, when you stop letting them run your emotions, when you start making moves for your well-being instead of their comfort, that's when their true colors show. And that's a blessing, not a loss. Because taking back your power means separating from anything that steals your clarity, your confidence, your joy, your self-respect. It means walking away with your energy intact instead of staying and losing yourself piece by piece. Peace puts you back in control. Peace reconnects you with your purpose. Peace brings you back to your center. When you value peace, you move slower, but smarter. You speak less, but with more intention. You trust yourself more than the opinions around you. You stop explaining your choices to people who ain't qualified to understand your journey. You stop being accessible to people who only show up when they want something. You start loving yourself on a level that don't require permission. You start healing in ways nobody can interrupt. You start growing past the environments that once held you down. And guess what? The world will adjust. People will adapt. Those who value you will respect your boundaries. Those who don't will fade out. Either way, you win. Taking back your power starts with one decision. My peace is my priority. Not attention, not approval, not acceptance, not validation. Peace, because approval from others is never guaranteed, but peace within yourself. That's something nobody can take once you decide it belongs to you. And when you hold on to that, you don't just take back your power, you protect it, you strengthen it, you build a life around it. That's where real freedom begins, inside you.